Yeah, yeah. What they saying? I'm so divine, I'm so divine. Imperfection, perfection, my presence shines. My mental is parasailing maritime. They say I'm destined to read the palm line. Yeah, I'm so divine, I'm so divine. Imperfection, perfection, my presence shines. My mental is parasailing maritime. They say I'm destined to read the palm line. Yeah, I'm so divine.
Welcome to the H.G.R.G podcast, episode 27. How we doing today, guys? How are you?
Oh my God, we got 27 guys. 27.
My best friend here, my favorite five.
We got a special guest here, Brian. He specializes in residential financing, also commercial as well. And we're going to dive into it. We're going to give him a couple questions so that way you guys can learn. We want to educate you guys on what he does and his mindset and his perspective from what he does as well. So, Brian, if you could introduce yourself. Let us know, who you are, what you do, how long you've been doing it, and then we'll hit you with a few questions here.
Yeah, I'm Brian. I'm a mortgage loan originator here in Rochester. I'm licensed to originate in all of New York. Been doing this for a little bit over 4 years now, officially. I got into the industry after my wife got into real estate and kind of stole that side of the business. Don't really need a husband and wife doing the same job. So
full disclosure,
I got into finance.
I like her more than I like him.
Oh my God, she is 100% the better of the two of us, and we all know that.
She's godsend. I love her.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So she was like, yeah, maybe I was looking to get out of corporate America and move into something a little bit more free, where I could really trade in some of my salary and get into straight up commission type roles and where my efforts gave me the amount of money that really my efforts made. When you're in a salary job or something like that, you double your output, even if you have a little commission, you're
the same number.
Your money doesn't, your money doesn't double. Right. No matter, it might be up a little bit. Right. Exactly. So I got into a commission where if I double my output, I double my money or even more, in some cases. So
love it.
That's what led me to this. And I've always loved housing, like remodeling. I've done flips. I own a couple different properties. I have a single, a duplex, and then actually Danny manages a 6 for me too, which is been an absolute roller coaster, but nothing that I regret. So, but that's how I ended up here. Danny got referred to me for a mortgage, and then also got referred to my wife to sell a house that he had. And it was kind of crazy. It was different people that sent us at different times to him, and then he kind of connected 2 and 2 and was like, "Well, your last name, like." I'm meeting with a realtor with the same last name as you. And I was like, my wife? Like, what? There's 2,300 realtors in Rochester. And there's got to be, 600-700 mortgage loan originators, and just happened to be the both of us that got referred. So that's how we got involved with Danny. And, it's been a ride so far.
To say the least.
So basically, your wife is really good at her job. And she's really good at your job too. So
pretty much. Yeah.
No problem.
No.
And you're lucky that you're with her. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
that's really why we get along so well, because our stories are so similar. Our wives are really, the ones who are winning.
We specialize in being inspirations to other male figures, not for what we do, but for what we've landed.
Right.
That's really
so we ain't shit, basically.
Hey, man, I don't know. You'd have to talk to the boss. If I'm gonna go wake her up, I'll go find out if you guys are
cool. We don't want to get you in trouble, though. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit better lighting here. What the heck?
So I want to highlight something that you said, Brian. So Brian comes from the corporate world, and we always talk about financial freedom and investing, and that's the way to go. You heard it from Brian's mouth right here saying, "Listen, I wanted more freedom. I'd rather turn in some of my salary for more freedom." you know, and if I work harder, at least I'm compensated for it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna, it's whoever takes the risk is who gets the money, right? So if your employer is taking the risk by, giving you a guaranteed 50, 100, whatever it is, I mean, they're the ones who get the extra money if their gamble works out, right? So if you're going to make it your gamble, you're the one who gets the money when the gamble pays off, and then if you're the type of person that, that you'll put the efforts in and make sure that gamble works, then and get out of corporate America, or, maybe I shouldn't say corporate America, get out of salary, get out of that grind, the 9-to-5 grind, and get yourself into something that you can actually grind at.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, listen, DT, let me start with you. Let's hit them with a question here, that our people want to hear, or they would ask themselves. Sure. So that way we can start getting this information out to everybody.
Yeah. So obviously the entry level question, and I want to kind of progress as we go, is going to be, what's the minimal amount of credit that one would need? What's the minimum credit score one would need to be financed for an investment property? Really doesn't matter the amount of the property, just what's the minimum credit?
Yeah. So you've got a couple different answers with that. And I'll just really cover two, right? So one is going to be, if you're looking for a property that you're going to live in, that would be where you get opened up all the way down to, 600, some real low scores. But that's going to be your owner occupant type loans, your FHA on a duplex, or a tri or a quad or whatever. VA loans, same thing. You're going to be able to get down to usually around 620s. And then on conventionals, if you're going to be 60% down, I'm sorry, 40% down, so 60% LTV, loan to value. That's where you can, get away with 640 and 660s. If you're going to be that 25% down, minimum amounts down, that's generally where you want to be, a 680.
Gotcha.
You can get away.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, man, dude, you got the pink hat on. I can't interrupt you.
Absolutely, you cannot. When you say 600. What's the interest rate? Is it higher, lower?
Well, with FHA, they you pay a slightly higher interest rate, but I mean the difference between a 600 and a 700 on FHA is not, like a conventional. That's a Gulf, right? That's a huge difference. In fact, you just can't do it. But if you could, it would be a massive difference. With FHA, I mean, you're usually only about 0.5% different when you're going from that 600 to the top level. Every 20 points is where your scores break on credit. So 600 to 619, 620 to 639, 640, and so on. So
that's a gem right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's a gem right there, especially with FHA. I want to reiterate, with an FHA loan, same thing for a VA loan as well.
VA is a little bit tighter, but you can usually get down to 620, 640, something like that. And very, very similar interest rates. Yeah. So you're not paying massive differences.
Right. So if I had a 720 with a VA loan or 620, the interest rate is going to be very similar. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Of course. It's going to be higher on the lower score, but it's not, it's nothing that you should wait for. That's something that I think is important for people to know. Oftentimes we'll hear, and you guys hear, oh, well, I just want to save up a little bit more, or I want to improve my credit a little bit more, especially now when we're watching these interest rates. I'm sure you guys are reading the news just like everybody else and seeing that these things are skyrocketing. Right. Waiting is more expensive than just doing it as soon as you can. It's the same with property values, right? Property values have done, in certain areas of Rochester, where I am. I mean, we've seen areas that have doubled, tripled, even in some areas. I mean, look at Maplewood, look at North Winton Village, look at 19th Ward, look at, a lot of those areas. They have just, it is
even the suburbs,
oh God. Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
I mean, suburbs have gone absolutely nuts, but for those core investment properties, today's purchase makes you look like a genius in a year. And I don't think that's going to stop yet. You know, like
that's a
you
great,
got,
that's a great
You don't see it breaking anytime soon.
That's a great
well, I mean, they're not building new duplexes, right?
Right.
You know, they're not putting up new tries, new quads. I mean, and when they are, they're $300,000 in next to a golf course. So, I mean, the type of stuff that gets you in the door type property, they don't exist anymore, right? I mean, if you've got something like that, I mean, that's it, you know, like, whereas when you look at single families, right, they can add new inventory. You can find builders that are putting up, you know, single pane window, you know, the very bare minimum code houses that are as small as possible with linoleum down. There's still builders that are doing that and getting you into, you know, getting you into a new build that's, you know, as bare bones as possible around $200,000 in my area, right? I mean, you're going to be driving a little bit, you're going to be out, you're going to be on a postage stamp of a lot, but it's still possible. So we're still adding single families to our repertoire, and we're still adding nicer single families too. You know, your $3, your $4, your $500,000 places. Right. And so as that's happening, and as we add new inventory, it makes old inventory become available. Well, we're just not adding new multifamily properties. We're not adding, you know, new singles that are in rentable amounts of money, right? So what's there is what's there, period. Right. You know, and you know, for everybody on this call, I know everybody here has if Are you guys selling yours? You're right. You're not.
Well, if I find a flip, I'm all in. But those are so hard to find right now, as you know.
For sure. I mean, those are different. You know, those are your short term, make a bunch of money.
Right.
But like,
if you said what he said was coming into the game, investing.
Yep.
You know, those are the properties speaking of. So let me kick back off of that. So I don't want to say what's winning and what's not winning, right? Because if you're investing, you know, the thought is that you're winning. But you have people like myself that invest for cash flow, and you have other people that invest and they worry about the appreciation. Right. I'm going to retire, and you know, after, you know, it's going to be paid off, and then with appreciation, I'll be able to cash it in, sell it, and I'll live off that for my retirement, whatever that looks like. Who is really winning? Is the person that wanted just cash flow and wasn't worried about appreciation? Are they now the one sitting in the driver's seat because now they have cash flow and it appreciated on top of that?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I haven't really thought about that. You know, when people ask me about the different styles, I usually say there's three, right? You got your suburb and like nicer area, but like not ever going to be worth a bajillion bucks, right? But they cost more and they don't cash flow as great. So they give you a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of cash flow, right? And then you've got your Park Ave place. Every city's got a Park Ave and an East Ave and all those fancy places. And those are you're just breaking even and somebody's buying you a $500,000 plus house. And then you've got your cash flow people, right? And those cash flow people, man, I haven't even really thought about that if you got 2x appreciation and cash flow out of it over the past couple of years. Yeah. You know, what an interesting thing. You know, I think a good point to make is that there's no wrong way to skin the cat, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the number one thing, and Danny, I've heard him say this a few times, you know, the best way to invest is do it, man. Like, let's, you know, just do something, right? Everybody won over the past 3 years. If you're owning property, you got some appreciation. You might, and with how much rents have risen and are projected to continue to rise, you're going to see those other properties, those appreciation properties, turn into cash flow properties. You know, it's crazy what's happening. And man, what a wild ride, but I don't think it's going to stop.
You know? What do you say to the people who, you know, because we have a lot of those people who we talk to, and they're like,
it's going to be the waiters, man. I'm going to bang my head into the ground if you say wait. Oh my God.
I don't want to buy right now. Prices are crazy. I'm going to wait.
I have to add to that. It would be, I'm scared of COVID and I don't want to buy. Oh my gosh.
Listen, there's no good time to buy an investment property. If it's going to go bad, it's going to go bad, right? I mean, but you've got pros to every con. You know, that I talk to my father a lot. My father lives down in my father lives down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Then my stepdad, I grew up with my stepdad and my mom up here in Rochester, New York. And so my father lives down south, and he does land sales for a major company. And so I asked him at the beginning of COVID, I said, what do you think's coming down the line? It's like, I think we're going to run into inflation. I said, oh man, what are you going to do then? Like, how are you going to, he's like, I'm just going to make money off of inflation. Like, so it's interesting. The people that get scared out of situations and freeze, they are going to be the ones that lose, whereas the people that are looking at like, oh, there's COVID. Awesome. All these properties values just dropped. Yeah. If you've got renters in them, let's go. You can still buy that house. There's nothing stopping you, right? Go take that risk and pick up an instant 50K or whatever the number is in appreciation as soon as you get that person out. And also there's plenty of people that just, shoot, Danny and I just had the property, the 6-family that he manages for me. We just asked someone to leave and they're like, oh shit, all right. and she was out of there. She trashed the apartment, and so be it. I'm gonna get a nice bill, but that's all right. It'll pay itself back in what? 7-8 months, and then we're moving.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
that's
so
true. That's true real estate investing attitude right there. Yeah, she trashed it. I'll pay for it, get my bill, I get it back. This is the game,
dude. It's
the
game.
The game. That's exactly what you said.
Right. Yeah, but I measure my wins and losses on like a 10-year period, right? So the last month's kick in the pants. Well, how do you? That really only becomes the ultimate kick in the pants when it causes you to have to sell something, right? And it's not going to cause me to have to sell. It might. Sorry, my dog's about to hack up a lung for some reason. He's taking up smoking or something. But yeah. So like, if you're investing for lifetime earnings, why would you measure it on like a monthly basis? Correct. Yeah. I think that's a real pertinent thing to let people know and let people think about is, if you're not looking at, if you're looking at this on like a micro level, but you're saying, hey, I want macro returns, but let's measure it every 3 weeks, or every rental that, every unit that goes belly up or has a problem, like that's not, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm in it for the long haul, right?
Absolutely.
So COVID was an opportunity, man. COVID's a pile of new properties that have come to market that have bad renters in them that are now devalued, and landlords are going up. I'm all set. Thank you very much. Cool. I'll take that.
What do you say? What do you say to the people? What do you say about the people who are in that the waiters, right? Would you agree to this statement? Yeah, the prices are higher, but the interest rates are lower, up until now that they're starting up again, right? So if you're paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more, the interest rates being so low, it almost balances out. So really, are the prices really higher when you're financing? Well,
and on top of that too, another point to put in, the rents are higher now. So prices are higher, but shoot, we just remodeled one of the units over at the 6 and jacked the rent up $200, and the girl said, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm so glad.
Mind you, she lived in the same building in a different unit. We remodeled the unit downstairs, and she said, "I'll pay." She pays X amount of dollars. I'll pay $200 more to move down one flight of steps and into the apartment you just finished for $200 more a month. Sign me up. I got everything you need. Security deposits. I don't need nothing. Yep. And she's already a tenant. Her sister lives in the building. It's an absolute shoo-in, but that just happened.
And so then we're gonna redo 4. That's gonna cost me a couple bucks. So be it.
That's another nice little bill.
But
it's a nice little bill. Oh yeah, these things. If you get the right properties, Danny's actually the one who found this one. But you get the right properties. These remodels pay themselves in a year, right? It's 1 year. So okay, well that sucks. I don't get some money for a year. Well, that's fine. Like I still. I still have other income coming in. If a year of one unit being down sinks you did something wrong before this.
and I want to stop you there, Brian, people are going to hear that and go, a year? Guys, when
you're investing for your lifetime,
right?
Like,
this is
investing
not
for financial freedom, like
right. This is not a. Jerry says it all the time. This
Right.
is long term.
Yeah.
right.
This is not roll out of bed and get rich quick. This is long term, but you will get there.
And I think it's important for people to know, like, if that really is what your breaking point is, be honest with yourself up front. And we got to look at nicer properties. We got to look at places that, you know, have lower chances of needing, you know, of needing boilers and furnaces, you know, places with updated mechanicals, you know, places that have a little bit more affluent tenants, you know, but all those places come with their downsides too. But, you know, if you're looking for something that's lower risk, like you're going to get a lower return. Exactly. I mean, that's where you're going to pay. You know,
less turnover, but your return might not be. It depends on what type of ROI you're looking for.
Right,
I mean, you got to find yourself.
Right.
You got to find yourself. You know,
sure. You got to state your goals and say, hey, I'm looking, you know, are you looking for money to cash flow in? Okay, cool. If you want money to cash flow in, that's going to be the risk of your properties where you're going to have these speed bumps and things like that. Are you looking for somebody just to buy you a $500,000 place? You know, you've got 150 grand burning a hole in your pocket. Okay, cool. Let's go 25% down. We'll get you a really nice place. It's going to be super low risk. There's going to be a multi-month waiting list. You're going to have a sheet of people that want to move into it, but you are going to make very little money. You're probably going to break even on it. Well, somebody buys that for you. Right.
So that's what Brian
fine.
means.
Nothing wrong with it.
That's what Brian means when he says buy it for you. So to dumb it down for you, you know, what Brian is saying is that you're not really looking for a return on this property. You're going to put a tenant in there. They're going to pay down the mortgage until that mortgage is paid off. And then once it's paid off, you can cash that property in. It's being bought for you by the tenant. You know, and that could be your retirement plan. And I mean, listen, and if that's your plan on investing, that's fine too. But don't go in there and expect anything different.
But that's long term as well. So everything you're talking right now is long
right.
term.
Right. That's a good point. Right. You know, that's not a magic bullet to not, you know, that's 30 years in the making, you know, when you do it that way.
What's the magic bullet?
Oh shoot, man. The funniest magic bullet we hear about every day, or what are you getting at over there? To make fun of people?
I mean, the reality is I can't know, for me anyway, there is no magic bullet, you know.
Right.
It's just not, it's not there. I mean, I know you guys, and I always say, I know you guys see stuff on Instagram and social media where it looks like they're on a beach with, you know, with a pineapple. You know,
I did 12 assignments this month. You also can make $1 bajillion. Like, yeah.
So what do you mean, for people to understand? What do you mean by assignments?
Well, like, you know, you always get people that ask you like, oh, I'm going to get into X, Y, and Z. You know, the newest thing is wholesaling, and some people are wholesaling and making money at it. But, you know, it's also like, you know, everybody knows that one guy was really good at like the multi-level marketing companies, right? But most people fail at it. You know, there's no free lunch. There's no magic bullets at this type of stuff. You know, the free lunch and the magic bullet is to put in hard work and to find the properties that are great investments, you know, and buy them for yourself, or to find those flips and do those flips. You know, like, the magic bullet is not to convince somebody to sell you a house and then try to sell it to somebody else, you know, down the street. Like, I mean, it works sometimes, you know, but it carries a huge risk. And at the end of that risk, are you prepared to close on that property? There's a lot of people that just won't be.
Right.
I don't know, man. So I think there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, everybody else hears you know, what was the term of, like, you know, it was everybody wanted to do the BRRRR, like, oh yeah, I can buy a place, and, you know, in 6 months I'm no money out of pocket. It's like, okay, sure. Like, sure. Yeah. That's really like
what they don't tell you in 6 months though. They don't tell you that. They tell you that you can do the BRRRR method in a couple months and you could just refinance. No, you have to wait. You have to have a title, the deed in your name for 6 months at least.
Some places a year. Some places,
and I mean, you're going to buy a place, right? Well, you can only cash out 70% of the value of the property, right? So if you buy a place for $100,000 and you want to get $100,000 back, well, you need to make your new value, has to increase quite a bit so that your new value, I don't know what's the exact numbers on that. What's 100 divided by 0.7? Divided by 0.7.
130.
Yeah, so 142,857 would have to be your after improvement value to BRRRR yourself out of your $100,000 cash in, right? And I'm not saying BRRRR doesn't work. I'm just saying it's not a magic bullet. There's
right. You got to buy right. There's so many stuff you got to buy
right.
You got to have the proper team. I mean, the time span. You don't want to be sitting on that thing for.
When you got to have. It's got to appraise out too, right? Like, how are you gonna? That means you're gonna have to increase the value of that property $42,000 in 6 months. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you can't just fake it. I mean, an appraiser is going to walk in there, and the first thing they're staring at, first thing the appraiser's staring at is, oh, this is just sold for $100,000 6 months ago. Remind me why it's worth 142 today. Oh, you cut the grass? Like, no, I mean, come on, be real. I mean, the BRRRR, I think the BRRRR does work on a longer term, with what we're talking about, all the appreciation that people have found and, fixing up properties that you've owned. I mean, that's where that method does work.
I just want to make it clear. Every term that we're talking about does work. It's just that you have to put the work in.
For sure.
You have to put the work in.
100%.
I just want to segue into what you said before, wholesaling. The new thing is wholesaling now. So can you finance wholesale?
You can't finance the actual fee that you're paying to the wholesaler. That's the wholesaler would actually have to close on it. Correct. And then when they close on it, so that's how it would happen. Yeah, you're not going to be able to get a purchase because the way it works up here is you're getting a purchase contract. Like say if you've got a house and I say, hey, I'll give you 80 for it, right? And you're like, all right, cool. So I get you to sign a contract that says I will sell it to Brian, or an LLC to be named, or a signer, right? And then I go, hey, Danny, you want to buy this place? I give it to you for 100, right? So Danny says, sure, that looks like it's worth 100. Well, now I'm about to make $20,000. But the thing about it is, Danny's gonna now get assigned my purchase contract for $80,000 and bring that to a bank. Well, now he's got to get a loan for 75% of $80,000.
Yes, sir.
He's gonna have to put down the closing costs and down payment on the 80, plus pay my assignment off to the side, right? So wholesaling sounds cool and works, but
and let's be clear, typically wholesaling, when somebody's wholesaling a deal, there's not enough time for a bank to finance you.
Right.
It has to be done you got
to find a cash buyer.
When wholesaler
makes the pool smaller.
Yep. Right. I mean, I've paid a wholesaler twice now. And both times I had to close with cash. Which isn't, both times I feel like the wholesaler did find a diamond in the rough and somebody who let them get it under contract for way too little money. Once was for a flip and once was for my for the 6 unit that Danny manages for me, actually. So I mean, the wholesale route, if you're trying to get into being a wholesaler, it's cool, but there's so many landmines out in front of you. And the ultimate landmine really is, well, what are you going to do? You put a deposit down, right? You gave this person X amount of dollars and said, I'll close on it or I'll find somebody to close on it for you. What are you going to do if you don't find someone to do it?
But you can put a clause in it so that way you can back out of it, though. You can backdoor your way out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if the smart people do, but then it's also hard to get them under contract done, because
right. But once again, what you're saying, you got to know your shit.
Right. I
mean, at the end of the day, you can really get yourself caught up in this stuff because I watch, you know, I go down the rabbit hole a lot, and I watch the videos and I see it, and I listen to podcasts, and I'm like, man, they just made that sound way too easy.
There's got to be a catch, right?
What this guy just said. There's no.
They completely neglect to mention the catch every time, though. Yeah.
You know
what's funny too? The guy that wholesaled that property to me, I make his wholesale fee every 6 months. Like, in perpetuity until I sell it, right?
Right.
I mean, that's of course I'm using numbers when everything's going well. You know, I'm not losing money on it right now. I'm not making the total gains that I should be, but I mean, it doesn't cost me money to have it on hand.
Right.
So
right.
And plus, I also I've diversified my portfolio. This was my my riskiest property that I own. So my other units that I have, I mean, those are golden. So like those things just continue to pay money.
Right. Can I move forward on both of those properties?
I mean, technically, yeah, you can, as long as your mortgage person is saying that it's good, that you're good to go and good to close on both. But generally with an investment property, if you're able to get approved for one and you've got the cash to do another, since we're taking into account the rents on the places that you're buying, you're generally able to do more than one at a time. You know, because each one that you're buying is inheriting rents. Now, if you're buying a property. What
do you mean by that? What do you mean? I understand it, but I want you to let me know. What do you mean?
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So when you're buying these properties, let's say you're buying a duplex and each unit is renting for $750, right? So on your loan application, we're going to put that in the income category. We devalue it 25% to account for expenses, management, vacancies, things like that. But we basically assume that these tenants are going to pay. And that number is based off of what it says on the appraisal, so that the appraiser is going to go out, make sure the property is worth the money, and then they're also going to look at and say, all right, this should be renting for $750 and this should be renting for $750, which is actually a kind of a cool thing. If you've got a property that you're buying and it's way under rented, you can use the numbers off of the appraisal, which is neat. Yeah. So, and usually the appraiser is just going to come in and say whatever, in most cases, it's whatever the place is renting for now is what they're going to say market rents are, because that's what the person is paying for the rents. But what that does is it helps you, if you were trying to buy a personal property and I said, hey, you can't do this. Well, if you then said, well, hey, I want to do this other one that's an investment property, oftentimes I can say yes to that investment property, even though I said no to a new single family for yourself, because that investment property is carrying in its rents that it's already got rolling. So,
so basically, and like you said, if I'm getting approved for one, I'm going to get approved for the other one. Chances are because of that extra income that's accounted for. I've already been pre-approved for that amount anyway. As long as I have the money to close on it, I should be good to go.
Right.
Perfect.
I'm trying to figure out how to put my face here in the middle so I can stop staring at the corner of my screen. But yeah.
What's the biggest cheat code?
Biggest cheat code is FHA investment properties. So now granted, you got to move into the property, right? The one thing that people will ask me often, and it does come up pretty often is, can I get an FHA loan on a place and just say I'm going to move in? Like, I mean, I guess you could, but it's a federal crime. So like, it's something.
Just so you know, you got to, when you get caught by the feds, you got to do all your time.
Right, exactly.
All your time.
So we're very clear.
Yeah, most people. Yeah, that's white collar.
You're gonna move into jail.
Right. Exactly. Yep. There's no occupancy fraud on jail, but like the thing with it with that is it's a crime, and like I'm gonna make you sign a lot of papers that say you're gonna move in. So like, I'm not going to get in trouble. The person lying is going to get in trouble, right?
Right.
I'm not going to lie.
When can they move out?
Yeah. So, but you only have to live there for a year. You're saying, hey, I'm going to move into this property. I'm going to live there for a year. And then after the year, do what you want, man. So the cheat code is to move into a property for a year and just get yourself an investment property, a duplex, a triplex, or a quad. You have to do it with what's called an FHA loan. We already talked about that earlier. But what makes it the cheat code is you can buy an investment property with 3.5% down. And the big difference is when you're talking about, doing just an investment property that you're not going to move into, you're going to have a heftier down payment, the minimum being 15% on a single, or 25% on a multifamily. Mm-hmm. So this is what makes it the cheat code. You're bringing out 3.5%. You're moving into one property, and then renting out the other side or the other 3 sides if you got into a quad, and you did it for almost no dollars out of pocket. So that's really where that cheat code works, and that's actually it's not what I did at first. It's what I wish I did at first, knowing what I know now.
Right. Welcome to the team.
Right.
Oh yeah, my first property would 100% be a quad, the most expensive one I could find.
Welcome to the other 3 dummies over here.
Right. Yeah, we're all in that same fun club. Well, I didn't have a great loan originator when I got started. I was a vet. I've got a small service connected disability from messed up ears. So I should have been able to get into a property with $0, with no money down, up to a 4 unit. And nobody told me any of this stuff. Or they could have at least told me, hey, get an FHA loan, put 3.5% down and save your 20%. Because my first property was a duplex. Save your 20%. And once you've lived in this one for a year, buy another one, bud. Then use your 20% down and get a conventional loan on a duplex, right? But nobody even told me that was an option. I had no clue.
That's why we created this thing.
How many times can you use a FHA loan?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so an FHA loan, you can use it over and over and over again, but you can only have one at a time. So if you move in and got yourself a property that was FHA, in order to use an FHA loan again, that's when you've got to sell the first one or refinance it into some other type of loan. But I think here's an important distinction to talk about. There's 5% down options for single families, right? So there's no 5% down options on multifamilies.
They don't want to hear that, Brian.
Right. I mean, that's why it's important for people that are watching to know. That's why we all say, oh my God, I wish I used the cheat code, because we all know about it now, but people didn't tell us about it.
Right.
So everybody that's living in a single family house, well, you could do that for 5% down, 5% down plus your closing costs and prepaids, right? But you can't do that, you can't do that on an FHA,
right.
Period. So lots of other options, lots of different ways to get your next place. One other thing I would say is, some people ask me, well, once I get that duplex, how am I going to get the next one? Well, my question to you is, how fast do you save up money when you live in your mom's basement? Very quickly, right? Well, when you're getting your first property and making your first property a duplex and doing it with an FHA loan, you've got another unit that is paying your mortgage, right? So that allows you to very quickly start a trend, So like my first duplex, I had somebody renting. So that person renting paid the whole mortgage. And I, at first I was stupid. And I was like, oh, let's see how many cars I can park in my driveway like a moron, and let's go buy a bunch of depreciating assets. Right. Oh, great. But I mean, your 20s, that's what you do.
Let's go buy a
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, whatever. You don't talk about my boat.
That one hit home for him.
Oh my gosh. Listen, keep it up. And if your boat ever breaks down, I'm not going to drag it back,
Brian's got like the Tesla of boats.
Oh
beautiful
my God.
Boat,
I do
beautiful
not.
boat.
Listen, you can't wake surf behind a jet ski. So if you're going to put the endless wave out, or if you want to hear your radio when you're like in a different town, you've got to have a surf boat. So you got to do it, man. Well, I completely forgot what I was. Oh yeah, I bought a bunch of depreciating assets, but then I was like, hey, I should probably buy more houses, and I just started saving and letting somebody else pay my mortgage and saving up my money. And then I was like, all right, let me buy a single family. So now I got my duplex, I got a single family. My duplex is paying for itself. It's paying for the new single family, and then it's also I'm still continuing to save at that same rate that I was saving before. Okay. And now I'm like, oh, I don't like this new house. Well, my wife actually said, I don't like this new house. So we bought another house. We bought another new house and we moved into that one. And once we moved into that one, now we've got the duplex paying for itself, then the other side of the duplex paying for the new property, and then that new property paying for our new property that we're now living in. And we're still saving money at the same rate we were when we were living in mom's basement.
Please see the domino effect.
Oh my gosh. And that's the other thing, when I said what Danny says to people and what I say to people, when they say, what's to get going on and how do I get started? What do I do? Just start. I mean, get something so that you're starting to get money rolling in, starting to get your stuff moving along. And then you start those dominoes, like you said, you got to get those dominoes going. But
it's so funny you say that, Brian, because what's my pitch, Dan? So what's my favorite thing I like saying?
What's your biggest bill? What would you do if I told you I could take away your biggest bill?
There you go. What's your biggest bill? It's either your rent or your mortgage.
Yeah.
So what happens if I could take that away from you? And then when you go to work, you can, instead of taking your check and distributing it, you can keep it in your bank.
Yeah.
Or use it for something else, or use it for your next property.
That's a really great way to say it. It really hits home that it's true though. It's not a sale, right? This is what I do. Oh my gosh.
There's no problem, right?
I'm just always this eloquent. Is that what you're getting at?
You said, listen, the secret sauce, the magic bullet is the FHA, right?
Yep.
So I just want to give people, a quick example of what that looks like. I'm going to do one half of it. You do the other half, Brian, if you have with you. So I want to buy an $800,000 property as an investor. I can no longer get the FHA, right? I've used it up. I didn't know better. I didn't have the knowledge. I have to bring to the table 25% of that $800,000.
It's $200,000.
It's $200,000, right?
Plus your first year's taxes.
Don't forget that your closing costs, all that stuff comes with it, right? Now, I have the knowledge. I watched the podcast. I haven't invested yet. Brian said FHA. Oh my gosh, I know what it is now. I see that $800,000 property. What's the difference of what I have to bring in? It's $200,000.
28,000.
Do you understand why we all get frustrated when we talk about we lost out?
Right. I mean, granted, your returns are going to be better if you bought it with a conventional and blah, blah, blah. But still, you're getting into this property for just so much less dollars.
And you're living in it.
Right.
So you're living in this property, right? Your returns might be better, but in a year, if you decide to move on, you replace yourself with another tenant. And like the domino effects, now that tenant is going to pay for the new investment.
When if you're looking at $800,000 investments, you're probably in an area where your single families aren't exactly cheap.
Yep.
I mean, you're probably looking at singles that are 4, 5, 6. I mean, shoot.
Right. And I wanted to use 800,000 just so they can see and understand what that number looks like.
Right.
From 200,000 to 20-something thousand.
Right.
I mean, don't ever say you can't get into the game. Don't ever say you can't get into real estate. And I'm using a huge number. I didn't use a property. It's 100,000. I used one that was almost $1 million.
Well, that's, you just kind of hit on something important too. If you're going to do your first, some people say oh, I want my first duplex. I'm going to move into it. I just want it to be a cheap one. No, make that your golden goose. Cause here's your cheat code to get your golden goose and start with it. Absolutely. And then start feathering in your other stuff, right? Start feathering in your $100,000 specials or $50,000 specials.
Just had
double entendre.
Just spoke about this.
Keith went through him, no?
Yeah. No, he's I think his appraisal's done. It came in at value. He's through underwriting. He just got to finish off his conditions and he'll get it clear to close. So but he's gonna. I mean, it's a $150,000 house. I mean, shoot, that I can't believe that's another thing that's important is you get out there and start looking, because that $150,000 house that he got under contract now is probably 180. I mean,
Clean.
Danny was joking,
Clean.
and we were making the same joke. It's kind of funny. I called him when the deal fell through, and I was like, "You think I should call the realtor and say I'll buy it? Like, I'll do it right now." And Danny's like, "I was gonna do that.
Too late.
I literally, I'll take it. Like,
Too late.
I mean,
already.
yeah, right."
And then
So,
Brian says, "Hey, Danny, did you make him buy that? Did you make him buy that?" I was like,
well, because he was like, I was pretty heated, man. Because, like, when you see somebody making a good choice for themselves, and Danny, Danny hits on this a lot too, whenever we hang out, but you see somebody that's like about to change the trajectory of their life, right? We're not talking about massive amounts of money right now, but in the long haul, it is. It's large sums of money, and that frees up money to, I'm not saying save up your money, go to Miami, 10 times a year. If that's what you want to do, cool, have at it. I mean, the big thing is, start saving up your money and getting into more, parlaying your one rental into your second rental, into your third rental until, isn't that what you guys basically did, right?
Absolutely.
I think you got a pretty sizable portfolio. I mean, you weren't, pumping your own money in that whole time, maybe for that second, right? And then after that, the rentals are buying the next rental,
1,000%.
But
right.
From what you just said, go ahead, Jerry. Well, tell them how we did that, man.
No, I just want to add in that our students, they're scared. So,
right.
So when we speak long term, because that's what we are. It's the season. So when we speak, we just talk about long term. We just push long term. We just run long term. But when we tell our students that all they think is the dollar amount that they just spent or they're going to spend, so they lose vision of long term and they don't understand long term, and it's frustrating at times. But you went through it with one of our students, and that's why I touched on that, because
I got a couple
going to walk away of that deal that DT had to just kind of like drag him right past the goalpost. Like, you're not gonna mess this up.
Yeah,
right.
DT and I had conversation after conversation with him 100%.
Well, I know people get scared and like, well, what if I need a hot water tank? Okay, that's a 1 month of rent. You got another 11 months. Like, I mean, you don't think like that in the rest of your life. I mean, you're not out there like not buying new shoes and new flat screens and I'm not saying him specifically, I don't know his situation like that, but I got plenty of friends that are, they're scared to invest, but man, they'll line up for Yeezys, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like, don't use that as your excuse.
Right.
if you're looking to spend, you'll spend money on whatever is out in front of you, then like,
a lot of
I'm just not accepting that as an excuse.
Yeah, neither will I. I'm a fan of what you just said 1,000%. I don't even like excuses, and I try to like weed I hate that, and I try to weed that. I like to be super direct. Sometimes it almost is like rude, how direct I am, because I just don't want to. I don't want to allow you to make excuses for yourself to miss out on probably one of the decisions you're going to make. So with him specifically, and I don't want to make this a dog him situation, but he was more emotionally involved, because what the owner wanted to do with the renting and this, that, and for him, it was like, no, I don't want to do that because, hey, he doesn't want to pay my price and stuff. And I was like, bro, this is not an emotional thing. Take the emotions out of it.
Yeah.
Just look at the numbers. This is the number. This is a no-brainer.
Right.
Get past the emotions. Trust me, in 6 months, you will forget that you even thought about the emotions right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And when you're measuring things on, if you're measuring things in 6 month returns, of course that's not going to look great. But that's why you got to look at these for the long-term investments that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you stared at your 401k for the last 3 months, you watched it dive the wrong direction, right?
But if nights of the week,
right. But if you just left all that money sitting there in your retirement account, like I did, I know today it came right back up, and that's why I don't, you're not measuring your retirement account on a weekly basis. You measure it on a yearly basis or on a, quarterly basis or whatever it is. So like, I don't think it's fair to judge, judge short-term setbacks with rentals and investment properties, you know, I don't think it's fair to look at them on such a micro level, you know, put a microscope over the top. You really got to judge. Now, that's not to say there's not bad properties. Of course there's bad properties. I mean, you guys might have one, and, you know, I know there's been times that, you know, some of my rentals have made me pull my hair out. I know my whole fence fell down in the windstorm, you know, 3 weeks ago, and that's gonna, you know, pull some commas out of my, you know, out of my bank account. But like when I measure it on,
it's only money.
It's only money. And when I measure it on the long-term scale of things, I mean, that property, I bought it for $50,000. It's worth $150,000 now. And the whole time I've owned it, they've been, you know, people have given me $1,300 against carrying costs of $350. So I get $1,000 a month to make $100,000. I mean, I didn't want to like get into real numbers, but I mean, like,
well,
those are legit.
We're fine
numbers.
Because we keep it real here with our audience.
Those are legit
hard stories. And this here, he just said his fence blew down, right? So
it's going to cost me $3,000-$4,000. Okay, well, I look at it and say, well, I've owned this property for 4 years. Well, that's $48,000 in income on this property, right? That I've gotten so far. So if it cost me $3-4 grand to put it back up and, you know, keep it going, well, that money's, I mean, that fence is still going to be there. You know, it's not like that shredded money. And if I ever do choose to sell it, I mean, that's going to be some more appreciation that wasn't there before, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's why you can't measure them on a micro level. If I just looked at it for the past 2 months, I'd be like, oh my God, I sent a plumber over there. There's, you know, a good chunk of money. I hammered out, you know, I had to fix the main drain line. You know, that was something that kept clogging. And so in the interest of being a good landlord, and, you know, it's something I'm always cognizant of, is I never want to be that guy who's, you know, slumlording. So I was like, whatever, I'll send a guy over. We'll cut 8 feet out of the, you know, basement drains in each direction. We did it. You know, cost me a couple, you know, bucks.
And at the end of the day, you're a landlord, even though you also deal with mortgage financing, but you're a landlord.
Right.
So with the mortgage financing, is there any creative loans that they're out there?
Yeah.
Well? I mean,
that's a good question. I think
this
that
is my
was
favorite part of the episode right here. This is my favorite part of the episode.
Oh man. Yeah. So, I mean, we already talked about the OG cheat code. We don't want to talk about it anymore, but like, so here's some other ones that are really cool. And these are ones that that don't get taken advantage of often. So there are what are called cash flow loans. And that is basically, if you're looking at a property that brings in enough money to cover its mortgage, congrats, you're approved. You come in with 20% down. You're not giving your tax returns. You're not giving your bank you're giving your bank statements, but you're not giving your pay stubs. It's just, if the property works numerically and you have the money, you can have the loan.
I need an example of that.
Yeah. So for example, like let's say, you know, if you don't have
any example of that. Sorry about that.
Wow, what's he say?
He's got a smirk on his face. I already know. Obviously, he knows. I'm going to ask the question because I haven't heard this before. So
all right, cool. It's a cash flow loan.
Thank you.
So this is, it's, yeah. So like, let's say the mortgage, when we calculate in taxes, insurance and everything else, can be $1,000, and it has 2 units in it, each renting for $750. Okay. Well, that's $1,500. That unit, like that example, qualifies for a cash flow loan. You have to pay 20% down.
Don't you take 25% of that?
For so I mean, even still, you back out 25% of 1,500, you're still over 1,000. Yeah, so you're still going to meet your minimum.
Numbers right, correct.
And I think it's important too. Side note, you just brought up something important. Whenever somebody looks at their rentals, they should always back out 25%. You know, and it's funny when I work with people, they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna collect 100% of my rents. Okay, yeah, good. I mean, me too. You know, like, but no, I mean,
he's got seasoned.
Stuff happens. I'll tell you that. Plan your numbers up at 25%, and or worse, and you'll never be disappointed. I mean, and even in my worst of years, my years where things aren't going well, I mean, it's worse than that. My numbers are playing off. My numbers are playing for that, and I'm playing the long game, so I'm happy with it. But so the cash flow loans, that's how those work. If the property can support the mortgage, they work. Now there's catches to them, of course.
That's my next question.
Higher interest rate, so if you can qualify,
how much higher?
It changes by market. I mean, it's one of those products that goes, it's pretty wild.
Can you give me an example of like today? So a regular interest loan today for a conventional loan.
I mean, yeah. So you probably would have been around 7%, on a cash flow, maybe a little bit higher actually. I don't do a ton of them, so I don't check rates daily, but they're quite a bit higher, 2.5% higher than a regular one. But
and what are the terms? Is there
regular 30-year term on a fixed rate? Yep. Now,
is there penalties for refinancing those after a certain time?
No. They're regular old loans. These are really a product that fits between hard money and regular money, right? Because and for anybody that doesn't know what hard money is where you're just going to somebody and saying, "Hey, I just want to borrow money for this property." They'll put a mortgage on it. They'll lend you it, no questions asked. They'll charge you 14%. If they're feeling nice, they might charge you 12. So I mean, these are great products that
you want to refinance out of that, pay them back.
Right. Oh, hard money. Please don't hold hard money. Oh my gosh. I mean, you'll make my wealthy friends and Danny's wealthy friends very happy, but like, oh my gosh, it's, I've seen people that have held hard money for 2 years. I'm like, okay, sure. Have at it. But yeah, so that's what cash flow is. There's other loans also called bank statement loans. Bank statement loans are where you're proving your income with your bank statements. So if you own a business and there's something on your tax returns that really prevents you from getting a conventional loan, we can look at it. We can calculate your income off of bank statements, and those are going to be a little bit more gentle than cash flow loans. That's still, you're still getting credit check. You're still, you're giving your bank statements to prove your income,
which is your pay stub ultimately.
Right. So if you're a self-employed business person, your bank statement is your pay stubs. The true way to do it is to do it with tax returns. And that's your conventional, route on a loan. And when we're saying conventional, that's literally the name of a loan type, right? But so you can do it with bank statements. Those are generally going to be about 1 to 1.5% higher than market. So for something like that, you'd probably be looking 6.5 today.
Doesn't that depend? Let's say you're in business for 1 year.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Great
for
point.
2 years or more.
Yeah. So the longer that you're, the more you can prove your income, the better your situation is, right? So if you have no proof at all, okay, you're hard money. That's 14%, right? You have proof that the property works. Okay, well then let's do a cash flow loan, and a cash flow loan is going to be, like we talked about 2.5% higher percent. In full disclosure, you should check these things all the time, because these are the types of products where there is no rules and the game is made up. So like stuff like this changes all the time. It's not like conventional and FHA. Right. Exactly. They're literally just made up loans. We call them non-QM, non-qualified mortgage. So then when you move to your property, your cash flow loans, those are going to have, better interest rate than hard money, but not quite as good as the rest. And you work all the way back to conventional, where conventionals are going to be your best interest rates on those things, or FHAs. Those are what are called full doc loans. You're showing tax returns, you're showing pay stubs, and you shouldn't be afraid of all this stuff. It's all regular stuff. But if there's something that prevents that, I'll give you an example. There's a business that I worked with, and the guy owned a business, and he made a whole bunch of money, and he had lots and lots of money. But when he started this business, he had dumped in a large sum of money to get it started. And he had racked up lots of hours in the business, owed him money and all these other things. So on his tax returns, he had what's called a carried forward loss. And this carried forward loss totaled almost $1 million. So every year he took a portion of that $1 million that he invested to start that was written off as a loss. And every year that $1 million got carried forward. So, he had $1 million loss in year one. And in year two, he took $100,000 of that. So an offset is income. In year 3 took another 222, whatever. It's all accountant stuff. But so essentially, in the eyes of lenders, he made $0 every year. Right. So that's where a bank statement loan comes in. This is a saving grace for somebody like that. And we can just look at it and say, oh, well, based on your bank statements, you actually make $250 a year. Let's go. Here you go. Go find yourself property. And that was actually on a single family. You can do bank statement loans on single families as well. As long as the income is stable and, able to be documented. You're never going to get a true barber loan where someone's like, hey, I've got a bunch of money in my bank, on my bed. I'm sorry. That's where you're in trouble. You then buy it cash. Get a bunch of money in your bed. Buy it cash, start documenting that income.
Would these products apply for commercial, like a portfolio purchase, or is it just properties?
These are going to be individual properties. Yeah. Portfolio purchases are where you get into blanket loans, and those have a lot more moving parts. They are cool and they do work. There are pluses and minuses to your blanket. Your commercial blankets, you can do 80% loan to value. So when you're cashing out, that's an extra 10%. When you're buying, it's an extra 5%. If the properties work, they are more gentle for underwriting. So if you got properties that are known, proven, successful properties, cash flow, that's where it works. Yeah. So that's where commercial blanket comes in, and that's where that's a great product type if you've got a whole bunch of like $60,000 houses. Trying to pull a whole pile of $60,000 mortgages, well, those closing costs add up, right? A lot of people say, well, what's percentage on that I should be paying in closing costs? Well, closing costs are a mix of fixed costs and percent costs. So when you're talking about $60,000 houses, those closing costs can be sizable. They might not actually be as large as when you're buying a big property, right? But when you look at it on each $60,000 house, it's got to have an attorney fee. It's got to have title insurance. It's got to have an abstract and a title search and all this other stuff, credit checks and appraisals, each one individually. Well, if you're doing 6 of those things, that adds up a lot. So commercial blanket allows, the lender to wrap a lot of those into one, where you might pay $2,000 for an appraisal, but that's covering 7 properties. And if you bought 7 appraisals at $600 a piece, well, that's more than $2,000, right? And then 7 attorneys fees and 7 wire fees and 7, so that's where commercial blanket really shines. Also, anything over 4 units, you're into a commercial loan, period. So if you're looking at, 6, 7, 8, 20 units, whatever it is, or, there's some weird ones I've seen, 3 duplexes on 1 plot of land. So that's a 6 unit, right? That's you can't finance those as regular, duplexes. So
what are the terms on a commercial loan?
25 years usually. Most people will do it at 20 or 25. They'll have adjustments built into them. Adjustments on commercial loans, the guys that we work with, they'll do adjustments every 5. So it's a fixed 5-year term for 25 years. So and you'll have 5 different interest rates throughout the life of that loan.
And what's the down payment on that?
Yeah, 20%.
20% still?
20%. Yep. And so that's going to be if you're getting fixed rates in commercial money, those are generally going to be higher interest rates. Whenever we get outside of the norm, you're going to have negative or risky features. Risky features being adjustable interest rates, balloons, calls. Those are all risky features. Or negative amortization. That's a nifty term. That's the term for a house loan where the balance goes up instead of down. It's kind of neat. You're paying less than the full interest on it.
Just remember 2007, guys. Balloon.
Yeah, right. Those are really hard to do now. Right.
Yeah. So
right. Yeah.
You make sure your rate is fixed. But I mean, listen, they buckled down on that, and I don't see anything like that happening anymore. But that that had to do with 2007. You know, a lot of that.
Right. My
nothing-
favorite description. You ever see the stick figures who explain the subprime lending crisis?
I don't think I've seen it.
All right, well, check it out when we're done. But it's literally the full subprime lending crisis explained only with stick figures, and it's hysterical and very informative. So it is as interesting as mortgages can be.
I'll be able to relate because I can't draw, so you know, stick
Oh
figures.
my
That's
God.
I can do.
Oh, and they're terrible stick figures.
That's the
But,
best
and it
I can do.
explains, it talks about subprime and all those things. But yeah, I mean, that the old days of just straight up stated income, you know, I don't think that'll ever truly come back. You know, there is creative financing that's out there, you know, that you can get now with those, you know, all the products that we just talked about, but there's some kind of something that they're checking on. There isn't that old school 2006, 2007, 2008, where you were like, yeah, my boss just is a jerk and won't answer his phone because just give me the loan, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so, I mean, we've definitely hit on a lot. DT, just Jared,
so
you
much.
hit anything else?
Nah, I mean, he covered everything that I wanted to get at. Thank you, Brian, for being elaborating on so many different things.
Danny, what do you got, man?
And what you mean? What do I got in what?
I don't know. What do you think? Like, did we do okay today, or like, did we answer all the questions?
I mean, it could have been better, but this is the best you can offer. I appreciate it. This is dope. This is dope.
Oh my God, I really appreciate you guys.
Well, welcome to
on,
Hollywood,
man.
Brian.
I know. You know what though? Like, I'm kind of pissed because my accountant was on before this. Come on. How is my accountant on the podcast?
It's always the guy with the money, you know.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, he's got some properties. He's a good dude.
I mean, everyone we bring on here,
yeah.
If you guys see a trend, is part of the team, you know. And not everyone, but a lot of people that we bring on here, and that's why you see the connection. Go ahead, DT.
Brian and Julie, Brian's wife's name is Julie, are actually how I got involved with Kyle. All the way around the board. Number one, I started because Julie, his wife, sold him the properties, his investment properties. Yeah. Julie recommended us for the management. I don't know if Brian did the financing for him or not, but
I did the financing on those.
He did the financing
I think I did it on his second and third ones, not the first one though.
And then after that, down the line, I'm not even going to talk about this in detail, but I had a debacle go on with my accountant. A debacle. Oh my
gosh, we can't talk about that. I was trying to do
a deal. I was trying to finance a deal with Brian.
The feds are listening right now, dude.
And Brian was like, dude, who is your accountant? You need, like, this is bad, bro. This is bad. So then Brian was like, hey, man, do you know that your investor, Kyle, he just bought his whole firm. He's the owner of the firm that he used to work for. So I'm like, get out of here. He was like, yeah. He's like, bro, you should do business with him. I mean, he does business with you. Why would you not?
Right.
And I'm like, that's a great point. So
I love that guy, man. He does a good job, and like, really informative guy too. You know, like that. Not to get out of my lane, but like that's the thing that nobody even really hit on is, you know, here. And I know he talked a little bit on, but man, when you're buying all these properties, it's so favorable with the tax codes. Mm-hmm. You know, the tax codes are basically written for people to invest in properties as much as they can. I mean, it's so, you know, I have trouble overselling.
Right. Because we offer Kyle, the gentleman that he's speaking about, is who we offer. Right. So you hear us speaking about that. That's your team.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But the reason why we bring these guys on is we're very transparent. We kind of tell you who we are, from the podcast to the mentorship to anybody. We are not scared. We're kind of tell you, hey, we're not going anywhere. We come, we stand, and we conquer. And with the team we are. Our team, Brian being one of the partners, we stand where we stand. We're not hiding. We're saying, hey, come hang out with us.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this.
Brian's not a guy that we just Google search and said, hey, you guys should try him. You know, Kyle's not a guy that we Google search, hey, you should try him. All these people are who we all do business with.
These are all the people
we use.
DT, these are all the people after our Google searches.
Save
That's
you
what these
from the
people
Google
are.
search.
It's after the Google
Oh
search
my
and all
gosh.
the mess ups
Yeah.
and all
It's
the
such a
money
perfect
spent.
way to put it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And it's dope. It's dope because, you know,
Yeah.
we all do business with each other in our own way. Anytime
I think all of us
mortgage-
practice what we preach too.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
right.
Sure.
Yep. We go to Brian for our mortgages. Brian comes to us for property management. It's just we
Yeah.
just recycle. It's, you know, we all spend money with each other. It's no there
you
is no
feed the
better person to
ecosystem,
go
right?
to. Yeah, no, it's
You
dope.
feed the-
It's dope.
you got to feed the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's
You
dope.
know, and you got to.
That's right.
But man, I mean, I think that's important for everybody to know. Like, this isn't like a, you know, not to dig on Grant Cardone. He's got a lot of great information. This isn't Grant Cardone.
Right up my alley. This is
Oh my gosh.
Grant Cardone.
Yo, we can't
Yeah,
get mad.
let me not get in
can't-
trouble. I don't, you know.
Let's not stand on that. But
Grant
you're
Cardone,
absolutely
I
right,
don't,
Brian.
I don't.
No,
fuck
no,
with you.
yeah. Oh, you don't? Oh
He
no.
doesn't.
Uh-oh.
He doesn't. He does not.
Not,
He does-
not at all.
Are you a Gary V guy?
I'm not a Gary Vee. He's not a Gary Vee.
Yeah, I'm not a Gary Vee.
I'm not opposed to,
Oh,
to Gary
man.
Vee. Right with Grant Cardone, and I didn't want to go.
Oh God. That's it. This podcast just got taken
dude.
down
I'm
right
about
here.
to go to the rails. Listen, I'm gonna save that. I mean, I like what he says. I like some of the messages he gives. You know, I do like that. We send videos back and forth in our chats and stuff like that. And Grant Cardone is part of that. Not part of the chat, but the videos that we send.
Right.
And I'm like, you know, great video, great message. But one day we'll deep dive into Grant Cardone. Right now, we're little guys on the total pole. I don't think we, stand.
You don't want to get taken out by
right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know,
I'll say one of my favorite Grant Cardone things, and it's not his saying. You know, it's something that he popularized.
Cut Brian off. Cut him off. He's good.
It's burn the ships. My favorite thing is burn the ships, and that's so important for people that are getting into this.
But wait, was that Grant though?
It wasn't. Well, Grant just reminded me. You know, he was talking about it in one of his things, and I don't watch a ton of his stuff, but every once in a while I'll check it out and just, you know, either A, laugh at, you know, how absurd some of the shit that he says is, you know, or B, you know, take something from it, right? You know, because he is a successful guy, and his company,
For sure.
I guess, his thing is he sells it, you know, sells it himself. But, you know, so he was talking about burn the ships, and for anybody that doesn't know what that means, you know, it's the old story of, you know, of an invading army, and they arrive by ship, and you know, their leader burned the ships, and they said, "Why are you burning the ships?" Said, well, now the only option is success. So, and it's something important when people are sitting there staring at that 25 grand in their checking account, going, "Do I want to put this into a rental, or that 30 or that 50 or 100 or whatever it is? Do I want to put this into a rental?" Man, burn the ships. Do it. Do your research. Don't jump in. Make sure you're getting a good property. Make sure you set your, you know, clearly set what you're looking for, but do it. You know, do it. Talk to your mentors, talk to your people, you know, talk to people that have succeeded, and ask people who have failed at it, how did you fail? You know, like that's another thing that, you know, might not have been, that probably doesn't get talked a lot on. You know, a lot of people try to avoid those that have gone before and failed. Well, I've failed at things before, and it's a lesson. I talk to lots of people that are like, you know, rentals. I would never do that. Okay, tell me why. Oh, well, I did it before and it didn't work. How did it not work? I really would like to know. Like, am I heading towards that wall, or like, tell me a little bit about it.
Right.
But that's the reason. This is the reason why we stand here, is because we all done it. We spent, I think, between all three of us, and including you, at least 250,000, 400,000, on 300,000 of money.
Mistake money.
Oh, yeah.
Mistake money. Correct. So when we say we took the L, we took the hits, we're trying to tell you not to go that route. Like Brian just said, you want to know, we're going to try to tell you.
Absolutely.
I've done some whoopsie doopses. You know, I heard some contractors where I'm like, when are you going to start? I'm already done. Like, it doesn't look like you did anything.
Let's not, please. I don't want to go back to memory lane.
But listen,
Brian, you see somebody start sweating. Oh my God.
We can sit here all night with you, man, and talk real estate. And we're
good to kick it, guys.
Appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the platform. and introducing yourself and you know, giving the world your information, your knowledge, so that way it makes it easier for everybody. Please, people, you know, visit HGRG.club. We're here. You know, we have a portal that's coming out. We've had our mentorship. We've mentored people. We're seeing results. We have our team. We're giving you guys everything. You know, so please take that step, dive, burn the boats, just like Brian just said, you know, and let's get to it. And we appreciate you guys. Just Jerry, DT, Brian. Thank you guys.
Brian, thank you, man. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Always good talking to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. What they say? I'm so divine, I'm so divine. Imperfection, perfection, my presence shines. My mental's parasailing maritime. They say I'm destined to read the palm line. Yeah, I'm so divine, I'm so divine. Imperfection, perfection, my presence shines. My mental's parasailing maritime. They say